जो कि एक बहुत ही मैजेस्टिक शुरुआत कही जा सकती है इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के लिए। यहाँ पे मैं आपको ये भी बताते चलूँ कि आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि द लैंडर मॉड्यूल का आल्टीट्यूड धीरे धीरे अब कम होता हुआ दिख रहा है, और जो कि एक्सपेक्टेड भी है। अभी हम बात करें करंट आल्टीट्यूड की, तो जो कि 28.6 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
आप स्क्रीन पर ये भी देख सकते हैं Chandrayaan-3 lander imager display. The lander imager is continuously taking photographs of the moon's surface, and that is also being streamed here. Currently, the horizontal velocity has been brought down, and the distance traveled is 574 kilometers. The current altitude is 27 kilometers, as can be seen on the screen.
जी हाँ, करीब करीब अपने आधे सफ़र को पूरा करते हुए इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज में लैंडर बहुत ही आगे की तरफ बढ़ते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई को घटा रहा है। अगर अब बात करें तो लैंडर की ऊंचाई चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 27 किलोमीटर से नीचे हो चुकी है, करीब करीब 26.7 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
The next phase after the rough braking phase is the attitude hold phase, which will be for a duration of nearly 10 seconds. The lander will be oriented such that both the altimeters will be looking exactly towards the moon's surface. At the end of this attitude hold phase, height measurement update to navigation system will be given from the laser and car band altimeters. Currently, we are in the middle of the rough braking phase.
जी हाँ, अगर हम ध्यान से देखें तो लगभग 8 मिनट की यात्रा के बाद लैंडर अपनी हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम करते हुए अपनी ऊंचाई, अभी की ऊंचाई के समय 24 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त कर चुका है। अब तक के आंकड़े को देखते हुए हम कह सकते हैं कि लैंडिंग पूरी तरह से नॉमिनल है। यहाँ पर हम देख सकते हैं कि हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी लगातार कम होती हुई दिख रही है। The altitude of lander from ground is currently 22 kilometer, which is again going to be coming down, and that is expected.
For the viewers who have joined now, we are in the powered descent phase, and we are in the rough braking phase, which is the first phase of the powered descent. We have currently traveled a downrange of 697 kilometers, and the downrange that has to be traveled during this phase is 713.5 kilometers.
जी हाँ, अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी लगभग 720 मीटर प्रति सेकंड हो गई है। लगभग हम ये कह सकते हैं कि 900 मीटर प्रति सेकंड वेलोसिटी को कम किया जा चुका है। At the same time, we can see the altitude of the lander is just 17.8 kilometer from the moon surface, which is going to be around 7.4 at the end of the rough braking phase.
इस फेज के बाद हम जाएंगे towards the attitude hold phase, where we will be expecting sensor update from the laser and car band altimeters. We can see the visualization of the lander module moving towards the moon's surface. The current altitude is nearly 15.2 kilometers, and the distance traveled is 754 kilometers. We can also see the image that the lander imager camera has been providing.
जी हाँ, इस रफ ब्रेकिंग फेज के दौरान 800 न्यूटन के चारों थ्रोटल इंजन अपने कार्य को पूरी तरह से अंजाम दे रहे हैं, और लैंडर के हॉरिजॉन्टल वेलोसिटी को लगातार कम कर रहे हैं। अब तक लैंडर लगभग अपने 75 से 80% की यात्रा को पूरा कर चुका है।
After the rough braking and the attitude hold phase, we shall be having the fine braking phase, which will continue for nearly 3 minutes. The whole phase is being driven by the autonomous landing sequencer and there is no intervention from ground.
जी हाँ आरुषि, अभी आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकती हैं कि जो करंट आल्टीट्यूड है चंद्रमा के सतह से लगभग 10 किलोमीटर के आसपास है। जी हाँ, हम अपने जी हाँ, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी हम सभी का उत्साहवर्धन करने के लिए दक्षिणी अफ्रीका के जोहानसबर्ग से जुड़ गए हैं।
Yes, we are privileged to have with us Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who has joined us from South Africa's Johannesburg to encourage us.
जी हाँ, आप ये देख सकते हैं एल्टीट्यूड होल्ड फेस भी बहुत ही आसानी से लैंडर फेस ने पार कर लिया है और अब फाइन ब्रेकिंग की शुरुआत हो चुकी है। अभी हम ये देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 5.6 किलोमीटर है, जो कि इस फेज के उपरांत लगभग 800 मीटर हो जाएगी।
We can hear from the mission operations team that the sensors are performing nominally. And we are currently in the midst of the fine braking phase, which is going to continue for 3 minutes. And the altitude is going to be reduced to nearly 800 meters at the end of this phase.
जी हाँ, जैसा कि आरुषि जी ने बताया कि लगभग 3 मिनट के उपरांत लैंडर की हाइट लगभग 800 मीटर वर्टिकली होगी और यहाँ पे लैंडर की हॉरिजेंटल वेलोसिटी, वर्टिकल वेलोसिटी, इवन डाउन रेंज भी लगभग शून्य होगा।
We can see the visual of the lander module and we can see that the down range traveled is nearly 831 kilometers.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई अब चंद्रमा की सतह से लगभग 3 किलोमीटर से कम हो चुकी है।
We are very close to the moon's surface, nearly 2.6 kilometers as we can see.
जी हाँ, अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 1 किलोमीटर के आसपास है।
We are nearing the final phase of the power descent, which is going to be the vertical descent phase or the local navigation phase.
जी हाँ, अब हम फाइन ब्रेकिंग वेव के एकदम करीब आ चुके हैं। हाँ, आप तालियों के गड़गड़ाहट से सुन सकते हैं कि हम लोगों ने तीसरे चरण को भी बहुत ही सफलतापूर्वक हासिल कर लिया है और अभी हम वर्टिकल डिसेंट फेज में आ चुके हैं, जिसकी शुरुआत भी बहुत ही अच्छे ढंग से हो चुकी है।
Lot of applause indicates that till now the performance has been nominal. We are in the vertical descent phase 1. The altitude is being brought down from 800 meters and we are nearing and approaching the lunar surface.
जी, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर का हाइट लगातार कम होता जा रहा है। इस समय हम लैंडिंग साइट के जस्ट ऊपर हैं और इस समय इसकी ऊंचाई लगभग 600 मीटर के आसपास है। इस फेज के दौरान लगभग 150 मीटर के ऊंचाई पे पहुंचने के बाद लैंडर अगेन लगभग 20 से 22 सेकंड के लिए हॉवरिंग करेगा।
We are above the landing site. The horizontal as well as the vertical velocity is now being constantly reduced. And the lander module has begun its descent towards the landing site.
जी हाँ, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं ये जो पथ निर्धारित किया गया है, लैंडर पूरी तरह से उसी को ही फॉलो कर रहा है। इस समय हम लगभग 200 मीटर की हाइट से भी कम आ चुके हैं। अब हम ये देख सकते हैं कि हम लगभग 150 मीटर की ऊंचाई पे हैं चंद्रमा के सतह से।
We are approaching the vertical descent phase 2, which will have the lander module hovering at nearly 150 meters above the lunar surface.
जी हाँ, आप इस तालियों के गड़गड़ाहट को सुन सकते हैं जो कि सेकेंड हैवरिक फेज के कंप्लीट होने के बाद इन सारे वैज्ञानिकों के द्वारा की जा रही है। जी हाँ, आप अगर फिर से ध्यान से देखें तो एल्टीट्यूड पुनः कम होता जा रहा है। अभी हम लोग लगभग 135 मीटर की ऊंचाई पे हैं।
The sensors that are updating at this point are providing confirmation of the safety of the landing site.
As expected, the retargeting is going on and this is a very good signature for the lander. अभी आप ये देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 65 मीटर के आसपास बची हुई है।
Currently, only 2 engines are now being fired, and we are nearly at zero velocity, vertical and horizontal. We were hovering, and now we are approaching the moon's surface.
धीरे धीरे लैंडर की वेगमान को कम किया जा रहा है और हम अब लगभग 50 मीटर से भी कम आ चुके हैं।
We can see the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who is here to encourage us, and he is critically looking at the visuals.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल
People are applauding. Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा के सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है। ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है। हिंदी में एक कहावत है कि चंदा मामा दूर के, लेकिन अब हम ये कह सकते हैं कि चंदा मामा अपने घर के।
बहुत ही उम्दा। The hard work of the entire ISRO community has come to fruition.
आदरणीय आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, नमस्कार। Sir, we have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon. Sir, I request our Honorable Prime Minister to address us and bless us. Thank you, sir.
मेरे प्यारे परिवारजनों, जब हम अपनी आंखों के सामने ऐसा इतिहास बनते हुए देखते हैं तो जीवन धन्य हो जाता है। ऐसी ऐतिहासिक घटनाएं राष्ट्र जीवन की चिरंजीव चेतना बन जाती है। ये पल अविस्मरणीय है। ये क्षण अभूतपूर्व है। ये क्षण विकसित भारत के शंखनाद का है। ये क्षण नए भारत के जयघोष का है। ये क्षण मुश्किलों के महासागर को पार करने का है। ये क्षण जीत के चंद्र पथ पर चलने का है। ये क्षण 140 करोड़ धड़कनों के सामर्थ्य का है। ये क्षण भारत में नई ऊर्जा, नया विश्वास, नई चेतना का है। ये क्षण भारत के उदयमान भाग्य के आह्वान का है। अमृत काल की प्रथम प्रभा में सफलता की ये अमृत वर्षा हुई है। हमने धरती पर संकल्प लिया और चांद पर उसे साकार किया। और हमारे वैज्ञानिक साथियों ने भी कहा, इंडिया इज नाउ ऑन द मून। आज हम अंतरिक्ष में नए भारत की नई उड़ान के साक्षी बने हैं। साथियों, मैं इस समय ब्रिक्स समिट में हिस्सा लेने के लिए दक्षिण अफ्रीका में हूं, लेकिन हर देशवासी की तरह मेरा मन चंद्रयान महाअभियान पर भी लगा हुआ था। नया इतिहास बनते ही हर भारतीय जश्न में डूब गया है। हर घर में उत्सव शुरू हो गया है। हृदय से मैं भी अपने देशवासियों के साथ, अपने परिवारजनों के साथ इस उमंग और उल्लास से जुड़ा हुआ हूं। मैं टीम चंद्रयान को, इसरो को और देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को जी जान से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, जिन्होंने इस पल के लिए वर्षों तक इतना परिश्रम किया है। उत्साह, उमंग, आनंद और भावुकता से भरे इस अद्भुत पल के लिए मैं 140 करोड़ देशवासियों को भी कोटि कोटि बधाइयां देता हूं। मेरे परिवारजनों, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के परिश्रम और प्रतिभा से भारत चंद्रमा के उस दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर पहुंचा है, जहां आज तक दुनिया का कोई भी देश नहीं पहुंच सका। अब आज के बाद से चांद से जुड़े मिथक बदल जाएंगे, कथानक भी बदल जाएंगे और नई पीढ़ी के लिए कहावतें भी बदल जाएगी। भारत में तो हम सभी लोग धरती को मां कहते हैं और चांद को मामा बुलाते हैं। कभी कहा जाता था चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं, चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। अब एक दिन वो भी आएगा जब बच्चे कहा करेंगे चंदा मामा बस एक टूर के हैं। फ्रेंड्स, on this joyous occasion, I would like to address all the people of the world, the people of every country and region. India's successful moon mission is not just India's alone. This is a year in which the world is witnessing India's G20 presidency. Our approach of one earth, one family, one future is resonating across the globe. This human-centric approach that we present and that we represent has been welcomed universally. Our moon mission is also based on the same human-centric approach. Therefore, this success belongs to all of humanity, and it will help moon missions by other countries in the future. I am confident that all countries in the world, including those from the global south, are capable of achieving such feats. We can all aspire for the moon and beyond. मेरे परिवारजनों, चंद्रयान महाअभियान की ये उपलब्धि भारत की उड़ान को चंद्रमा की कक्षाओं से आगे जाएगी। हम हमारे सौर मंडल की सीमाओं का सामर्थ्य परखेंगे और मानव के लिए ब्रह्मांड की अनेक संभावनाओं को साकार करने के लिए भी जरूर काम करेंगे। हमने भविष्य के लिए कई बड़े और महत्वाकांक्षी लक्ष्य तय किए हैं। जल्द ही सूर्य के विस्तृत अध्ययन के लिए इसरो आदित्य L1 मिशन लॉन्च करने जा रहा है। इसके बाद शुक्र भी इसरो के लक्ष्यों में से एक है। गगनयान के जरिए देश अपने पहले ह्यूमन स्पेस फ्लाइट मिशन के लिए भी पूरी तैयारी के साथ जुटा है। भारत बार बार ये साबित कर रहा है कि स्काई इज नॉट द लिमिट। साथियों, साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी देश के उज्जवल भविष्य का आधार है। इसलिए आज के इस दिन को देश हमेशा हमेशा के लिए याद रखेगा। यह दिन हम सभी को एक उज्जवल भविष्य की ओर बढ़ने के लिए प्रेरित करेगा। ये दिन हमें अपने संकल्पों की सिद्धि का रास्ता दिखाएगा। ये दिन इस बात का प्रतीक है कि हार से सबक लेकर जीत कैसे हासिल की जाती है। एक बार फिर देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को बहुत बहुत बधाई और भविष्य के मिशन के लिए ढेरों शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Adharaniya Pradhan Mantri ji, for being part of our journey to this success. And let me take this opportunity to thank the people behind this mission. The project director of Chandrayaan-3, he is here. Veera Muthuvel, congratulations to you. The associate project director, Kalpana, and the mission operations director, Srikanth. And the satellite was built at your house satellite center, Shankar and the director. Thank you, sir. Hello.
It's a great moment of happiness on behalf of team. It gives me immense satisfaction on achieving this goal as a project director of this mission. The entire mission operations, right from launch till landing, happened flawlessly as per the timeline, and we became the 4th country to demonstrate the soft landing onto the moon surface, and we became the first country to go to near to the south pole of the moon. I take this opportunity to thank navigation, guidance and control team, propulsion team, sensors team and all the mainframe subsystems team who have brought success to this mission. I also take the opportunity to thank the Critical Operations Review Committee for thoroughly reviewing the mission operations right from launch till this date. The target was on spot because of the review process. I also thank the ISRO higher management, right from Chairman ISRO, Director URSC and all the center directors and higher ISRO officials. And finally, my thanks to the Chandrayaan-3 project executives spread across the ISRO centers. Thank you.
Mission Director Srikanth.
It gives me an immense pleasure to be part of Chandrayaan-3 and acting as Mission Director. I would like to thank each and every team member who has supported in carrying out all the mission operations flawlessly. And I would like to thank my senior management, Chairman ISRO, Director URSC, my senior colleagues and my team members for carrying out and supporting all the things carrying out in a proper way. Thank you very much.
Associate Project Director Kalpana.
Good evening to all. This will remain the most memorable and the happiest moment for all of us, for our team Chandrayaan-3. We have achieved our goal flawlessly. From the day we started rebuilding our spacecraft after Chandrayaan-2 experience, it has been breathe in, breathe out Chandrayaan-3 for our team. And starting from the reconfiguration to all the special tests and the simulations we have conducted meticulously, and this has been possible only because of our immense effort from our Chandrayaan-3 team, and of course with the guidance from our Chairman ISRO, our directors and all our experts. With all this, it has been possible. Thank you one and all. Thank you for all the minutest help which has been provided from all the areas of departments. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Chandrayaan-3 is a result of the work done by thousands of scientists, engineers, our staff and industries and support team across ISRO and other places, other institutions. And Shankaran has been the lead of the center which integrated all of these efforts in the last so many years. So I request him to speak on behalf of all of you.
Thank you very much for the affection that has been displayed today now. Today, we have achieved what we set out to achieve in 2019. It was delayed by about 4 years, but we have done it. When Chandrayaan-3 was launched, after the separation of the spacecraft from launch vehicle, I said, I will speak the rest of the things after the soft landing. So here I will take a couple of minutes to tell the tremendous amount of effort that has been put in by the entire project team. When I say project team, it is not just only the project director and associate project director. Of course, they are the face of the project. They have been living, sleeping, eating, breathing Chandrayaan for the last 4 years. They have been supported by such a large number of people, particularly in the navigation, guidance and control area, propulsion system. This area, the amount of effort that has been put by people, the number of simulations that have been done, the number of reviews they have gone through, the amount of criticism they faced and overcome that. It is, as a person who has been watching this for the last 4 years along with them, my heart goes out for them. The amount of effort is tremendous. That is what ISRO is all about. That is what our organization has taught us to do. Now today this success has put us even more higher responsibility, as the Honorable Prime Minister was telling, because we have set the bar now so high. Nothing less spectacular than this is going to be inspiring for any of us in the future. So as the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, we will be now looking at putting the man in space, putting a spacecraft around Venus and landing a craft in Mars. Work on all these activities are going on for few years, and this success today will inspire us and will spur us to take those efforts even more strongly, so that we will make our country proud again and again and again. Thank you very much for every one of you who have directly or indirectly participated in this mission, encouraged us, intentionally or unintentionally helped us in all for every one of you. A big thank you, because even casual remark, an unintended point can help a person who is striving to reach a goal. The person who is making that remark may not have meant it that way, but sometimes it can ignite that's why I said that even unintended help is very, very, very welcome, and we are very, very thankful for that. Thank you, Team ISRO, for supporting all of us. The amount of affection we received when this mission came into this final stage, the number of people who gave us confidence that nothing can go wrong and this is going to be successful. In fact, I was not that much confident, because we have seen a couple of times issues. because I know very well as a person who has been doing in this domain for 36 years, I know there are thousands of things. Any of that can anytime go wrong and derail. But so many of the people, because that I only see as the reflection of the effort we have put, that people are so happy to see this effort and they want us to succeed. It is not that they know that we are going to succeed. The people want us to succeed. So thank you very much for everyone for your love and affection. We will continue to do our best and make our flag fly, ISRO's as well as India's flag fly high. Thank you very much.
Honorable Prime Minister called me and conveyed his greetings to each one of you and your family for the wonderful work you did in ISRO. Thanks are to him for the support that he is giving to us for missions like Chandrayaan-3 and the missions that are in the offing. I think that's a great word of comfort that we are receiving for pursuing the inspirational work that we are doing for the nation. I want to tell you, and I want to thank you also for each and everyone who prayed with us in the last many days, who wanted this success to happen in ISRO. I thank all those people all around the country and maybe beyond the country for their blessings and wishes and affection that he has given to each one of us for doing this work for the last so many years. I want to specifically thank some senior people who have been standing with us, especially the name of Kiran Kumar sir and Mr. Kamalakar, Sri Koteshwar Rao. They have been helping so much. They were part of the team to help them to get the confidence and get the reviews done to ensure that nothing goes with any mistakes. And of course, this is not the work of us alone. This is a work of a generation of ISRO leadership and ISRO scientists. And this is a journey we started in Chandrayaan-1, continued in Chandrayaan-2, and Chandrayaan-2 craft is still working and doing a lot of communication work with us. And all the team that contributed to building Chandrayaan-1 and Chandrayaan-2 should be remembered and thanked while we celebrate Chandrayaan-3. And this is an incremental progress and definitely a great, huge one it is. And thank you so much for all the support and work that you have done. Thank you.
उत्साह की तस्वीरें जो आप देख रहे थे इसरो से आपने देखा कि किस तरह से चंद्रयान-3 की सफल लैंडिंग के साथ में ही एक उत्साह का आनंद का जो वातावरण देखा वो सिर्फ यहीं तक नहीं था बल्कि पूरे देश भर में है और पूरा देश आज उल्लसित है, आनंदित है।
और इसी मौके पर राष्ट्रपति द्रौपदी मुर्मू ने एक संदेश
Yes, a queen. Ooh, and another one. If you want to stand out, you gotta play your cards right. A super move. Game, set. Is it a match? Oh, sure. Don't just date. Bumble date.
This has got to be this Prime Minister. Let me tell you, I've now worked with him now for 6 years. My God, he listened. And by the way, if there's anybody who actually will change his mind, if you give him evidence that whatever his preconceived view is, needs to be changed because this is what the evidence is, he changes his mind. Any of you have ever been to the US, you will find that they have terrible domestic airline. I mean, even the worst Indian airline is better than their best. Why does this happen? Because they don't allow this creative destruction thing to happen. Whereas we are allowing this creative destruction to happen. Good guys are coming, bad guys are going. ILO has gone and done this study, or WHO know what they're doing. But a lot of it is just garbage. They made it up because they want to manipulate you in some way. And many of these international organizations deliberately do this.
We've created so many episodes on geopolitics. People have come on the podcast and expressed their opinions. People have expressed their opinions on PM Modi, the current government, the future of India. Sometimes these opinions have been negative. So many people express themselves on YouTube, on social media. And I also strongly believe that most strong opinions are backed by loose information, usually. Not in all cases. In some cases, they're extremely well researched, extremely well thought out. They take into account the other side of the argument as well. And whether you're a pro-Modi listener of the show or an anti-Modi listener of the show, if you're an Indian, if you care about where India's going, or if you simply care about the subject of economics, this is the episode for you. Sanjeev Sanyal works directly with the PM of our country. He's a part of the PM office as an economic advisor for the future of our nation. People like him decide where our nation goes 5 years from now, 10 years from now, especially when it comes to money, especially when it comes to the growth of our country. This is the kind of conversation you want to listen to before forming opinions about the Modi government or governments in general, or what's happening in the world generally. I'm not going to speak too much anymore. I will let you slip into this economics special of the Ranveer Show. Remember, if the conversation gets extremely heavy for you, scan TRS Clips, our YouTube highlights channel, where we only upload highlights of each episode. It'll help you sit through the different sections of this episode. If you want to increase your attention span though, you better start meditating. My meditation app Level is now live on the App Store and the Play Store. Go check it out. And finally, all I'll say is follow us on Spotify, because a lot more conversations like this are coming up very soon. We're a Spotify exclusive. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This is Sanjeev Sanyal on The Ranveer Show. Sanjeev Sanyal, welcome to The Ranveer Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
You just told me not to get intimidated by you before we began shooting. I want to know why you said that.
No, people are way too deferential, sir, etc. in these kinds of things. So I said, please don't be deferential.
Honestly, you're one of the widest spectrum of personalities. Like, you have one of the most elaborate kind of knowledge sets. So before this episode, I was actually figuring, okay, should I talk to you about your family's history? Should I talk to you about economics? Should I talk to you about your day-to-day life? I don't know what I should talk to you about. But in saying that, we've never done an economic-centric episode on the show. So I think that's why we'll dive deeper. How do you explain economics to a 4-year-old?
Well, it's about, a 4-year-old may be a bit too young.
Okay.
But I think somewhere around about 10-year-old, I could explain it. That, look, there is a limited amount of resources on this planet. And how do you make sure that it gets used in a way that makes as many people as possible prosperous, and that we can all have a good life and incorporate new technologies and make progress?
Okay.
So how do you arrange all of that is what economics is about.
Okay. What do you mean by resources?
Resources means, there's only so much food to eat. There's only so much industrial production. There's natural resources of various kinds, minerals, water, etc. So how do you make sure that you take all these resources and make sure that they are distributed in the best possible way? And so part of it can be done by government, part of it can be done by markets, and so on and so forth. And how this arrangement works is economics.
Okay. All right. What's a day in your life like? Like, what do you do right now for people who have no clue about what you do specifically with the government? Can you explain your job to them?
Sure. I am an economic advisor to Prime Minister Modi. So, obviously that's about providing economic advice to how to, as I said, run the economy and so on. But since you asked about how my day works, let me say there is no pattern at all in it, because I travel quite a lot. Right now I'm in Mumbai, but I live in Delhi. Next week I am in New York for a conference in Columbia University. So there's a lot of traveling. Then as you can imagine, this is a job which is very prone to crises of various kinds. So, you have COVID shock. So suddenly there's a lot of work related to that, which you never imagined. You sort of got swayed off into a different direction. Then there is G20 and these kinds of things that turn up. So it's very choppy. There will be days when I really work very hard, and then there are times where hopefully a little bit slower.
Okay.
And so, and in the middle of all that, I'm attempting to write a book and do other things as well. So I'm one of those people who you have to be very disciplined with this, because you have to keep things moving without there being any pattern in your otherwise in the life. So it's not like, some people say, I like writing a book at, I have 2 hours designated every day to write. I have no such thing. I mean, all my books have been written, the chapters have been written, in one long weekend I got free and I wrote one whole chapter in that. Like I worked 16 hours, 3 days flat and finished the chapter, because that's literally the only way I can do it.
How did you get to this point of actually becoming an advisor for the government? Like you would have definitely studied a lot, done a lot, and then I'm assuming you would have been cherry-picked in some form.
So I studied economics first at Delhi University, then at Oxford University. Then I became a financial markets guy for about 22 years. So I was an economist. So I'm not, when I'm saying I'm working in financial markets, I don't mean that I'm a mainline guy who gives out loans or something like that. No, I'm not a banker in that sense. I was an economist. And my job was really to just look at how interest rates are moving, exchange rates were moving, sovereign credit risk, equity markets, liquidity, things like that.
You'll have to explain what these things mean to like school-going audiences.
Fine. You know about the share market?
Yeah.
You know about exchange rate, rupee, dollar rates, etc.
Yes.
So my job was try and guess, roughly speaking, what's happening in these markets, and essentially help my team to make bets on that.
Okay.
So the other word for it is basically calculated speculation. You can call it that, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So
you basically knew a lot about finance. You had studied it all your life, and you were in a position to be able to predict
so I
the
worked
near
for
future.
Europe's largest bank, which is Deutsche Bank.
Okay.
Till about end of 2015. And so this was my job. So looking at global markets, and not India, I was looking at markets around the world, and basically managing investments, risks, uncertainty, and trying to basically make sure that our banks, clients, and ourselves were able to make money in this and manage the risks. All kinds of shocks keep happening. You know what's happening in financial markets right now. Banks in the US are failing. Credit Suisse is under stress, and so on. So these kinds of things happen all the time. So my job was to kind of keep up with all of this. And so that's what I did till 2015 end.
So you had to study for a living in many ways.
Yes, I had to study for a living, but it's not academic studying in that sense. After the academic training, a lot of it is really being imaginative, because unlike an academic where you can go and say something and there's not very much skin in the game, here things would blow up if you got it wrong. So, you burn your fingers a few times, and after that, you have a lot of respect for markets because they can do things that you can't imagine suddenly happen. So that's what I did till 2015. Then, I was sounded out by the political leadership, whether I was willing to come over and work in the government. And so I said yes. So in the very beginning,
but one second,
yes.
you're being humble here. I want to ask you why you and why not other people in your position.
Like in any field, there are relatively few eligible people, so to speak. In any field, that is the case. So if you're looking for music director, there'll be a relatively small group of 10-15 people. If you want to do design, chips or something, in that world, there'll be in the world maybe 10-15 people. So similarly, macroeconomists in the world who have some track record, etc., isn't a very large universe. There is a bunch of people like K.V. Subramaniam, my former colleague, or Raghuram Rajan, who was the governor. If you add a bunch of these people like that, Bibek Debroy, who is my colleague again right now in the Prime Minister's Economic Council, so you end up with macroeconomists, economists of some standing. It comes to 15 people. So I happen to be one of those people.
And this is why people get intimidated by you, sir. This is the whole intimidation angle. Not that we're getting intimidated. I'm trying to get to your human side.
Okay.
But let's go on. Now I'll let you continue the story.
Yeah. So then, so if you're one of those, for whatever reason, they decide that maybe he might be willing to come and work in the government. Not everybody agrees. So I did.
Because it's a high pressure job, I'm assuming.
It's a high pressure job. Some people may have other preferences.
Okay.
Working in financial markets, for example, is financially a lot more lucrative than it is for working in the government, for example, and so on and so forth. So there may be multiple reasons why people may not want to take it up.
Okay.
So it's a small pool, and not everybody wants to work in the government. People may have ideological or political differences. That's another reason they may not want to work with a particular government. They may be willing to work with another government. So there are many reasons.
Do you have political ambition?
No, I'm not. I'm a technocrat in that sense. I mean, obviously, I have ideological views, but by and large, I'm an administrator of things. So yeah, so that's how in in February of 2017, I ended up working in the government. But that time, I did a somewhat different job. I joined the government as principal economic advisor to the finance minister at that time. So I was working in the finance ministry, and I worked for 5 years. There as the principal economic advisor. So some of your viewers may be familiar with something called the economic survey. So I was one of the principal authors of that economic survey that comes out every year. So that's what I did. And of course,
and for people who are not familiar, you'll have to explain what it is.
Okay, so the economic survey is published every year just before the budget, on the day before the budget. Those of you viewers who have been prepared for the UPSC or studied economics at university and so on will be familiar with this document. Comes out every year. It is possibly the most widely read document written by the Indian government. And for the 5 years that I was the principal economic advisor, I was one of its main authors. And after doing that, till the budget or economic survey of 2022, I then shifted to the new team as part of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, where I am now.
Okay. I get that you were in a different department, but in my eyes, it kind of seems like a similar job. Like
it is a similar job. It is a similar job.
What you were doing with the finance minister and now with the PM.
Yes. So, but there is some difference. I'll tell you. That job, principal economic advisor, is a little more operational in the sense that I have to think about, let's say, the monthly GST collections and things like that. Here, it's much more strategic because you're working in the Prime Minister's office. So you're thinking about things like, even though I used to work for about G20, but I'll think about it more here. Or I'll think about things which may not be purely economics as well. So here, because that is more vertical, this is more horizontal.
Gotcha.
So one of the things I've worked on recently, which may appear to have nothing to do with economics, is a report on re-looking at the list of nationally protected monuments. So India has some 3,700 odd nationally protected monuments, and re-looking at the list to see whether that's a sensible list or not. I published a report on this a month ago. Now, this would not be something I would have done if I was the principal economic advisor. But here, because I am the Prime Minister's economic advisor, which is a more flat, cross-cutting job, this is something that I would do.
Okay. Heavy job profile. There's a lot to dig. Like, you've already given me like 30 questions to ask you. This doesn't happen to me at this point in the podcast, but let's dive straight in.
Let's dive straight in.
Okay. I want to ask you to begin with, what's it actually like working in the PM's office on a day-to-day basis? Now, what I have understood from the show, from diplomats, from anyone who's even kind of worked with the government, I figured that PM Modi is extremely busy. He has almost no time to spare. He's always running around. And I'm assuming that that's the case with his entire office as well. So on a very human level, how intense is it really? And second question is, what's a day in the life like there? Always new things to fight. But then where is the room for creativity where you can think of like how to run the nation a year from now, or 2 years from now, 10 years from now?
So obviously there is one core team in the PMO that is dealing with the day-to-day issues, and they are dealing with the ministries where also. So in that sense, it's a boiler room where all kinds of things are going on, and I participate in it too. But the role I have is exactly what you said, thinking about a somewhat longer term. That's why I get time to be able to, relatively speaking to the others, do more research, pick up a topic and write, say, a working paper. And I keep publishing working papers.
What's a working paper?
Working paper is like a slightly more formal, thought through paper on an issue, like just you said. Like it could be on, let's say, randomly picking up a working paper I've done in the last few months. You pick up the patents office. Okay, the patenting is all about intellectual property rights and all of this thing. And so I wrote a paper saying why India's patenting system should be 3-4 times larger than it is today. So you make the case, why do we need the patenting system? Why does it need to be 4 times as large? How much money would it take? How many people need to be hired? So that is not day-to-day fighting. This is more strategic kind of thinking. So this is the sort of thing that I have the luxury of doing that maybe many other people working for the Prime Minister may not have that luxury. So I get that luxury.
The creative aspect, like building the future.
It's a little bit of space, but somebody has to do it. So here I am.
So technically, you are responsible for the criticism or appreciation that the government will get a year from now or 2 years from now, at least in some capacity.
Yeah, some capacity. Obviously, a lot of it depends on implementation. It's not like just because I said something, it gets done. Many people may disagree. The Prime Minister himself may disagree. So not that every idea I have finds fruition, but yes, to the extent that they do, I deserve the criticism or credit, whichever way you want to put it.
So when trolls say "Achhe din aa gaye," it's actually directed at you.
Yeah, of course. We take it personally.
Okay. Are you guys aware of online trolling or all that? I'm sure.
Of course, I get trolled all the time on Twitter. Anybody who's on Twitter gets trolled all the time. There are a whole bunch of people. If I say the sun rises in the east, they'll say, "Acha, how do you know? Yehi kya achhe din hai?"
Cool. What else are you used to reading on Twitter?
All kinds of things. By the way, I have another life as a historian. So, there are a whole bunch of people who say, why is The Economist writing history books? So, aise bhi log hain. Then there are people, no matter what I say, as I said, even if I say the sun rose in the east, they will criticize. All kinds of things. If you open yourself up on social media, you should be willing to get trolled all the time. And then there are people who are, you can see that there has a fake account that has been created for the express purpose of trolling you. So it's okay. It's part of the game.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you what PM Modi is like to work with and what do people not understand about him as a person?
So I think, people have this view that he has this preset view of the world and he rams it through. Absolutely not true. If there is anybody who is a good listener, this has got to be this Prime Minister. Let me tell you, I've now worked with him now for 6 years. First as as Principal Economic Advisor and now directly as part of his Economic Advisory team. I have been in meetings with other people there and I have been in many one-to-one meetings with him. My God, he listens. And by the way, if there's anybody who actually will change his mind, if you give him evidence that whatever his preconceived view is, needs to be changed because this is what the evidence is, he changes his mind. And that, I believe, is the greatest trait of a leader, that when presented evidence, contrary to his whatever may be his preconceived idea, he changes his view. And I think that is an amazing trait. So the ability to listen is, I would say, his biggest strength.
Okay. And that's usually where growth as a leader stops, right? Like the moment you kind of stop taking feedback or you stop listening.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Prime Minister Modi is all about feedback loops. It is those who work closely with him, all of them will tell you he is an unbelievable listener.
Citron, Asli Protein.
Citron helps you fuel your journey of going your own way. And like me, Citron supports those who listen to themselves and are living an unconventional life. Share your story today and get a chance to be featured on our social media page and become a part of the Citron squad.
Suno khud ki, karo khud ki.
Okay. The reason I'm asking about PM Modi and we're talking about self-criticism is because I want to ask you if you think that he considers his whole term exactly how he wanted it to go. So when he became Prime Minister for the first time, he must have had certain visions of like how he wants to govern the country. Do you think he looks back at it as like perfection, or he feels that no, this could have been improved, that could have been improved?
I think he'll always think that, because first of all, he's a person who's always being driven. So no matter what his vision was in the beginning, I mean, I only have a general view. I can't look inside his head. But I would say that the nature of the job is such that you are being hit by all kinds of shocks all the time. I mean, COVID is one shock, then Ukraine war comes along, now global financial crisis is happening, or may not happen, but looks like something is brewing. So you are navigating this ship through very, very stormy waters, and it's a very complicated, large ship where you could barely tell where the front is and the back is. So in this really stormy, messy situation, the job is not to aim for perfection. You can't. No leader of any major economy in the world will be able to do that.
Because something is going to go wrong.
Something's going wrong all the time. That is the nature of it, and this is just in the administration of the economy. There's also, elections are happening. He's losing and winning in state elections. Then in the middle of it, El Nino effect will happen and drought may happen. All kinds of natural disasters, earthquakes. So you are dealing with an extremely chaotic universe. So there is no sense of thinking about any rigid perfectionist idea. The question is, are you able to navigate through this and get the big things that you want to do done? So, for example, one of the big things he wants to get done is in physical infrastructure, roads, airports, etc. So, throughout the COVID thing, despite all the disruptions, you see infrastructure kept getting built. So why? Because you see, basically you keep it going. Now, some of it may also go wrong. I mean, you may end up building an airport somewhere, and it turns out that it's not going to have the traffic you forecast or whatever. Those things will, at the edge, things are always going off. But it's a question of managing the whole thing, believing in your team, empowering them, and providing leadership when things go wrong. That is actually the biggest and most complicated thing. You can always have technocrats telling you what to do. See, I can also have views, and I do have views on how the economy should be run, etc. In the end, I'm not the person who takes the political flack when things are going wrong. So somebody like Prime Minister Modi is ultimately a leader, not just because he is doing what he's doing, but he is also, in some sense, the person who will be blamed if it goes wrong. And he still has to provide leadership through all of that. So he's the person who is taking the risk, not me.
Yeah, I think mentally you have to be built like a bull to be able to.
Absolutely. This is really, this is about character in the end.
I've often wondered why someone would willingly sign up for a job in politics, especially with those kind of political ambitions. I'm sure power is like kind of seductive, but do you really want this kind of a life where it's so intense and you are going to trade off your mental health repeatedly?
It's a tough job. Being a politician, let me tell you, is a very tough job. I mean, irrespective of ideology or anything, party, etc. Being a politician is a 24/7 and very tough job. Even if you're a local MLA in some state with whatever, it's tough. Your local constituents will turn up at your door. Your son needs a job. Daughter has broken her leg, and you're expected to respond in some fashion. It's very difficult, and of course it's true worldwide, but certainly in India there are no boundaries. People don't I have seen politician friends of mine, we are sitting for dinner on a Saturday night. After many attempts, we finally get to meet. And suddenly in the middle of all of that, phone call comes from back in his constituency, somewhere deep inside. Some person's car has broken down in some village in his constituency. And he thinks that his member of parliament should do something about it. So there are all this stuff that goes on. So, and at some level, he has to respond, because come election time, that same person, he expects him to go out canvassing votes for him. So it's not like it's a one-way relationship. So this is a very difficult job. Being a politician, I have to say, toughest job in the world.
Okay, very raw question for you. Okay. Most people from my generation, I'd probably even say your generation, and then even my parents' generation, which is older than you, have now really begun to watch YouTube in order to understand what's happening in the world, and especially the country. is the government aware of channels that criticize them as well?
Potazos challenge. ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ತುಂಬಿಕೊಳ್ಳಿ potazos ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. Potazos. ತಿಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ ಅಥವಾ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ತಿನ್ಬೇಕಾ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ?
ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊಸ ಬ್ರಿಟಾನಿಯಾ ಪೊಟ್ಯಾಜೋಸ್.
Yeah. Okay. I can assure you, as I said, if you're on social media, there are enough people tagging you on them.
Okay.
So, yeah, we watch them, and it's good feedback is important.
Okay.
Some of it is honest feedback, some of it is ideologically or politically driven feedback. So, but then that's the filter you have to use.
How do you filter it?
No, so you have to take a judgment call. And after a while, also, the personality. There's some people who will criticize you even if you did something genuinely good, and they even agree for it. And in fact, they were themselves advocating those things. If you do it, then they'll criticize you. So you just filter those out.
Okay.
But then there are people who give genuine feedback, and we take it all the time. I mean, by the way, YouTube is only one source. There's mainstream media still is a part of that.
How important is it now? Because honestly, the on-ground truth is that fewer and fewer people are watching the news. And even news journalists feel so.
No. So that may be the case. But you see, some of the stuff on the YouTube still comes from mainstream media, by the way. Even if somebody may be commenting on it and pulling material, but mainstream media does still provide the sort of the base on which many of these discussions happen.
Okay.
So it is not the case that they have become irrelevant. Secondly,
are they?
I don't think they're irrelevant, but they have needed to have changed. And they have changed to some extent. And they are also evolving, by the way, just like everybody else. They are also making their way through the world. And new platforms are popping up as well all the time, including yours. But there are other platforms as well. Like ANI has got, Smita Prakash has got her
fantastic
own show. You are doing one. Then Arnab has his own style, debating style. So there is a whole mix of stuff that's going on.
Okay.
And at every point in time, there are different markets, right? There are different people getting information on different subjects from different ways. So there's no one way. It's not like the old days you picked up the newspaper, sat in your balcony, sipped tea, and got your information from that newspaper. You are being bombarded with, your alumni groups. WhatsApp is also a source of information. Debates are happening there also. People are giving, some of it is rubbish, some of it is good. So I think we have all become much better at filtering garbage or being able to tell what is true and not true than we were, say, 5 years ago, where any and every WhatsApp forward was seen as gospel truth. I think most people are now a little bit more skeptical of anything that turns up in their WhatsApp group. But on the other hand, some of it is fun, and some of it goes around. Some of it is conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories are also fun, by the way. I'm not saying I don't dislike watching them. Aliens are landing and all that kind of thing. But fact of the matter is, you also have to take up with many pinches of salt.
Yeah.
So you get feedback of all kinds, and some of it then you have to filter, and that's the job.
So because you're with the government, sir, does India have an Area 51 version of itself?
I can't tell you. If I had to, I'll have to kill you.
Okay, cool. Or take out a flashlight and then erase my memory.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. What I do wish to ask you though is, what's up with the government? What are you guys thinking about in terms of the future of the country? And I'm going to give you a very rudimentary angle based on what I have learned through the podcast. Okay. The general consensus after speaking to all the Indians that I've had on the show is that everyone feels like the current government is the government that should be there considering the world's current scenario, and the world is honestly in geopolitical turmoil suddenly. They say that there's decades where nothing happens, and then there's months where decades worth of things happen all together. And I feel that the last few years have been a series of months like that, where too much has happened. Now, in the present day scenario, we feel that the current government is exactly the government that should be there. That's the general consensus. Of course, you have your people who don't agree with this, okay, which is primarily urban elite. That's honestly what it is.
That's true.
And as a media professional, as a podcast, I'm not a journalist. I'm not educated to be a journalist. But as a media professional, I feel that if I am in this position of extracting information from people like yourself who are working with the government, extracting information from people maybe who criticize the government, I need to stay as centrist as possible, irrespective of what I am emotionally or what I am as a human. But I also feel even that side is pretty much centrist now for the sake of my job, because I think it's the ethical thing to do. What I have understood geopolitically is that when a country basically grows economically, when we become richer, you also become geopolitically more powerful.
Yeah.
Because our media and whatever our country's history is, has already kind of done the job for soft power. But when it comes to hard power, it's about money at the end of the day. And if we study success stories like China, first they became rich, then they became powerful. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. There's two ways to become rich. One is if you have resources like minerals within the country, and the government finds it, and we start mining, and exports increase, and we make money through that. I know how rudimentary this is.
And by the way, that is a dangerous way, because very often the large powers of the time will take an inordinate interest in your existence, as Iraq found out, for example. So trying to become rich on the basis of natural resources is a dangerous game.
Okay.
So I would say that ultimately the strength of an economy is based on having a much more widely based system. Obviously depends on the size of the country and so on. Yeah.
See, when there's people like you in front of me, I get embarrassed to even talk so much, but it's my job as a podcaster to just give you youth context.
Okay.
आज हमारे टॉप 12 करेंगे बैटल.
किसी के जो हाथ न आए वो इनाम